So what you should know about the CSEC Food and Nutrition exam, right? So basically what we're going to start off with, as you're preparing to sit that exam, first we have to do some housekeeping work, meaning that your portfolio is completed with all of the necessary pieces that CXC requires, and also ensure that you completed your 3 practicals, right? So that's the first step when you're preparing for the exam. Ensure your portfolio is already finished and submit. And then ensure say you did your 3 practicals and you were done properly, and ensure say you have a good SBA grade going into the exam. So it all starts there pretty much. So then you're going to have your paper 1 exam, which is going to be 1 hour and 30 minutes, right? So now this exam is going to be 60 MCQ, right? So 60 MCQ. And basically food and nutrition is a technical subject. So guess what? On an MCQ, you are going to find a lot of, basically the questions are going to relate a lot to things that obviously you taught about through the 2 years, grade 10 and 11 when you do it, but also some things that might in your portfolio. So still stuff like that, or maybe in the practical. So questions like that can show up in the MCQ. Now the thing about food and nutrition is that since it's a technical subject, at least when I was doing it, past papers are very, very scarce. Not saying that there aren't any, but they're very scarce, because when I did the subject, my food teacher, she was the one who, would have give away some of the question them, or if them find any little old papers, they would give it to us, right? Other than that, I couldn't find it online. I could have barely find any past papers online or from anywhere else of for foods, because them just so scarce, right? And it's the same thing for family and resource management, very scarce. So your teacher have to be the one who is basically guiding you 100% into the exam, right? So if your teacher has past papers, I would like to think that they would give them to you, or lend them to you, or say photocopy them, right? So things like that. Yeah, but to me, food is not a hard subject. You just have to ensure that you did your reading, remember what was done in class, remember another practicals, and also remember stuff within your portfolio. Because let's just say, and basically what you're doing in the portfolio should be related to what you did obviously get taught in class, right? So basically in line with following the syllabus, ensure that you can go up on CXC's website and just check the syllabus. So just make sure you go through everything, right? So now with the paper 2, it's going to be 2 hours and 30 minutes, right? So basically with the paper 2, obviously it's free response, and one advice / tip that I would give is ensure that you know your definitions, right? Ensure you know your definitions, and also ensure that you know how to explain. So when you see a question, don't just write. If you see a question and it has 5 lines, don't write one sentence on the 5 lines and expect you to get 5 marks. There's a reason why them give all that space. And sometimes the questions can seem so straightforward, like, oh, this ask me for define this or blah blah blah. But if them give you, when you see ones, they give you a certain amount of lines, them actually expect you to use it. So that's the depth of the answer that you're expecting. So when you're doing the exam, pay attention to the amount of marks that you see there. So you see 5 marks, you can't write one sentence and expect to get 5 marks. That absolutely not gonna work. When you're doing the exam, also do not ever leave anything blank. Write rubbish. Write something. Sit down, look, think about it, leave it and come back and say, alright, I understand what does this mean. Let me try and break it down. Or if you remember something related to it, right, they might even get half mark or something. Right? You might even get a 1 mark out of the 5 or whatever. Right? So be able to explain the different things. If them talk about the types of kitchen, or if them bring up something of that nature, and sure you can explain it, right? And for me, when I do foods, I don't know, but to me everything was very visual. You see, because I'm a very visual person, so especially like, because for me, when we start the foods, the kitchen, the different types of kitchen, and obviously the different appliances, those are some of the, like, the first things that the teacher will touch upon, right? And where me see is if I can imagine it, if I can see it in your mind, you can answer the question then. Because we might do that and say, oh, they might ask something about the blender. I mean, my mind, if you really start picture the blender, and I say this, that, and if you really start picture everything, right? So those are the things that you need to do. So before you go to the exam, have a visual look at the appliances, them, go over the advantages and disadvantages of the different appliances, them, and the different types of kitchens, so different things like that you need to really get in your brain to listen. Okay. You're gonna need to explain, because you can ask stuff like that on the exam, right? Don't ever leave anything blank. It don't make no sense. Like, this is just a rule when me personally carry through. Why am I gonna leave it blank? Or if I rubbish, make I write the rubbish on the paper. Why am I gonna leave it blank? So basically, that's basically what I personally do when I'm doing my exam. But the paper 2 is going to be the longer of the two, and it's worth most of the marks, right? You have to prepare properly. And actually, I have a video about how I got a grade 1 with distinction in food and nutrition and health. You can also go ahead and check out that video down below. Basically, ensure that you prepare properly. Ensure that you read the textbook. If you don't have a textbook, you should probably get a textbook, right? Because what we did do, I think we did a rent a textbook. Me sold the rent textbook, so obviously somebody to have that to guide me along with my notes, so the teacher them need to give. Now, for me personally, I did love my notes them. I don't know if you see, during that era of my life, that was the best handwriting I put on. I'm not gonna lie, because my handwriting these days not really a lot, but basically, I used to love reading my handwriting. So make notes when you're studying as much as possible. Make the notes, them, read them, advantages and disadvantages, and just be able to explain the different things, right? And train your food groups, them, nutrition, nutrients, all those stuff like that. Make sure you can even define nutrition. Focus on also learning to define the different terms, them, in case the company exams to define this or stuff like that, or be able to explain. And what you can also prepare for is, let's just say you get a scenario and you need to know how to answer the scenario. Because guess what? If you don't have the knowledge, how you can answer the question, no make no sense. So you have to read a textbook, all those things about egg and all that stuff, and train off a label it and all of them something here. Go through your syllabus. Go through your notes, go over but the topic of milk and different things and all that stuff, fermentation, all them. Listen, you need to go through everything that was taught in the syllabus. And the thing about it, because recently I actually see a comment with somebody that says something like I think they said majority of the syllabus does not come on the exam, which technically is true. But guess what? How you gonna know what exactly come on the exam? Let's just say that the syllabus was made up of 50 pages, right? Let's just say that for example purposes, and it make about 50 pages. And you decide, say, you know what, me realize there's probably only like 10 pages out of the 50 company exam. You decide, say, okay, you're gonna study 10 pages out of the 50 pages for your exam. What if that 10 pages for the exam that them put on the exam is not the 10 pages that you did study? So that means that the 40 that they left behind, you know, was study. So the 10 where you study was you study for no reason, because the questions were not targeted towards that on the paper 2. Maybe it could have worked out for the paper 1. Since the paper 1 does test for technically everything, that is what CXC says. But when you study that 10 out of the 50, yeah, all you know say that 10 go company exam. So that is where you put yourself at a risk. If you're going here and you find out say that's all them ask more you go through, then yes, you get good luck and blah blah blah, you go through. But what them say, puss and dog don't have the same luck. So somebody might try it 1 year and say, yeah, me only do that time I get through. But how you gonna know? Because me study for my exam, you know, me can't just say, oh, I feel like so them not gonna ask me that. Listen, it's always the question where you think them not gonna ask, them are gonna ask. You understand? It's always the topics, the difficult topics the students probably like to neglect. That the CXC are gonna target. What I mean? So for example, you're going to the exam and you say, listen, I want them talk about that, you know, I want to give me the little something about the appliances, and I want to give me the kitchen. But when them get a little more technical and ask you the steps to baking a cake and all them something, what you gonna do? When them ask you a question about time plan, what you got to say? You don't remember none of them something here. We can never study them, right? So things like that, you have to be smart. And even though they say work smart and not harder, but sometimes you have to work hard with the smart too. Because common sense, and I tell you, say, unless somebody pinch you and say, listen, a page 1 to 10 accompany it, then that would be working smart for say, listen, I know exactly what come, that's why I said it this. What's not smart is studying randomly 1 to 10. That's okay, you feel like it, and then 20 to 50 completely ignored. Like, well, that makes sense. Or 11 to 50 completely ignored. That makes sense. So if you want to try it, if you want to try your luck, you go ahead and do it. Honestly, if you want to try your luck, I not say it's impossible, but as we say, pussy and dog not have the same luck. So if you want to try your luck, you can go ahead and do it. But me not recommend nobody until nobody say go study 10% at the syllabus. We not say that. Go study 10 page or to the 50 page and you go pass. If all your aim for is a grade 3, then you can try it and see if it work out for you or not. So if you get a grade 3 or you end up short and get a grade 4, then exactly where you work for. You put in 10% of the effort. So what if you do? Me not gonna say nothing. If that's how you choose to approach studying, then that's just how you plan to do it. I'm just put stand down and say, look, it might work out, it might not work out. You might still get a grade 3. You might end up with a grade 4. Right? So you have to really decide in your head if you're willing to do it over next year. That's just it from my opinion. But basically that's just me saying what I have to say and how to prepare for your foods exam. Just please ensure that your portfolio and your practicals them out of the way and you get your exams. And ensure that you get enough sleep, ensure you're drinking enough water, ensure that you're eating healthy, ensure you bring the appropriate tools like your pen, your pencil, ID and stuff like that. Don't leave them on exam day. Ensure you go early. So don't go to an exam start, let's just say our exam is at 9 o'clock. You know, if you did this, I walk through school gate 9 o'clock. You're in the room 9 o'clock. So you need to say, listen, if I go reach for 8:40 or 8:45 if me I try to catch 9. So, you know, just pay attention to your timetable, show up early, and just go in there and do your best. Just calm down, and if you get nervous, the world not end. But at the same time, and if you have a brain, go in there with your brain. So I'll just see the question, and you don't know what the answer is, come up with something in your mind. Come up with something in your mind. Think to yourself, say, what could I be? What could I be the answer? So you have to really think, right? So go into the exam with that mentality and just do your best. Anyway, this is the end of this video. You can go ahead and check out that video I said before with the how to get a basically how maybe to get a distinction in foods. Go and check out that video, and basically that's the end of today's video, and bye guys.